Oh, you beautiful little arsonists. You clicked on this, which means something inside you is already burning. Good, because what I'm about to say is going to feel like somebody cracked open your ribcage and found the one secret you've been keeping from everyone, including yourself. See, you are not a regular person. And no, that's not flattery. That's not me doing a bit. That is the bone-deep, blood-level truth of why your entire life has felt like wearing someone else's skin. You, my delightful little anomaly, are something genuinely rare, walking around in a world that was absolutely not designed for your frequency. Your energy? It doesn't belong here. And somewhere underneath all that performing, you've always clocked it. You felt it as a kid, watching everybody else speedrun a game nobody ever handed you the tutorial for. And the reason is stupidly simple. You were never built to play their game. You were built for something else entirely. Something they don't even have a category for yet. And today, right here, right now, we're going to dissect exactly what that means. Why it's been such a heavy thing to haul around. And why everything is about to flip for you. So, let's begin where it gets uncomfortable. Have you ever walked into a room and felt the whole atmosphere glitch? Not because you announced yourself, not because you made a scene, just because you showed up. People's heads swivel, conversations stutter for half a beat. Some stranger across the room locks eyes with you, like they've met you in a dream they can't quite place. That's not your ego inventing things, gorgeous. That's not main character syndrome. That is people detecting something in your signal they have zero language for. And they will spend the rest of their days trying to decode what it was. They'll call you intense. They'll call you mysterious. They'll call you different, and never quite land on the right word for what kind. And I need you to actually hear this next part, yeah? That's because you are not broadcasting on the same wavelength as everyone else. You came in tuned to something most people don't even know exists. Something the majority spends their entire existence chasing and never catches. And you didn't even have to chase it. It just lives in you. Now, rewind to your childhood for a second. I'd wager everything in my pockets, and I always have something interesting in my pockets, that even as a little kid, you felt ancient. You picked up on currents adults thought were invisible to you. You sensed the storm in the room before a single word hit the air. Maybe you cried at the drop of nothing. Maybe you went full opposite, built walls so high people assumed you were made of stone. When really, you were just armoring up because you felt everything at 10 times the volume of anyone standing next to you. You were sensitive in a world that puts sensitivity on trial. You were deep in a world that hands out prizes to the shallow end. So you learned, early, painfully early, to fold yourself smaller. You learned to muffle your own signal. Because somewhere along the way, somebody convinced you that you were too much, too intense, too emotional, too strange, too extra. But my brilliant little live wires, I need you to understand something right. Let's break the rhythm. You need a reality check. If you never fit in, you're in the right place. Your book, The Evolution of the Anomaly, written by Animus Morphosis Channel, is the manifesto for the new elite. Grab it from the description or the first comment of this video. Now let's get back to the real meat of this. You were never too much. The container around you was simply too small for what you were holding. Here's exactly where it gets razor-sharp real. And I want you to feel this in your chest, not just process it with your ears. You are a walking reactor, a living furnace of something most people can only dream about. You step into a space, and without lifting a single finger, You rearrange the whole room's chemistry. You shift how people feel about themselves just by existing near them. And because of that, people are pulled toward you in ways they can't rationalize and, frankly, can't resist. They don't always know why they want to orbit you. They don't always know why they're calling you at 2 in the morning to unload their entire autobiography within 10 minutes of meeting you. Why they feel steadier just sitting beside you on a bus or in some fluorescent-lit waiting room. It's because they can sense you're connected to something bigger than the daily noise everyone else is drowning in. Most people are wired into the machine. The stress, the scarcity, that constant low-frequency hum of anxiety that runs this whole beautiful, broken society. You're connected to the source. Direct line, no middleman, no interference. And people feel that difference in their marrow, even when they could never articulate it. But here's the part nobody warns you about, and it is the part that's been quietly, persistently grinding you down your whole life. When you're a reactor like that, people don't just enjoy your warmth. They start to need it. Yeah, they start to lean on it. They start, sometimes without even clocking what they're doing, to hook into you like you're a power station. Think about how many times you left a conversation feeling completely gutted, even though you didn't lift anything heavier than small talk. Think about how many times you sat in a room full of people, vibing, laughing, doing what looked like a good time from the outside, and walked out feeling like somebody yanked your cord. That's not random. That's not just introvert tax. That is real. People have been drawing from your field for years, and most of them have zero idea they're doing it. It's not always on purpose. A lot of the time, it's completely unconscious. They just feel better around you, so they keep coming back and back and back, without once asking what it's costing you. And I want to level with you about something, because this is the part that actually matters. You have likely spent years, maybe your entire life, giving and giving and giving to people who never once did the work to fill themselves up. You became the unlicensed therapist of your whole circle. You became the one everyone speed dials when their world is collapsing. But somehow, you're the last person anyone thinks to check on. You became the soft landing for people who never once wondered whether you needed somewhere soft to land, too. And every single time, you showed up. Because that's what you are. A natural mender. Somebody whose presence alone settles people's nervous systems. Somebody who can sit inside another person's pain and somehow help carry the weight without even meaning to. But menders forget they need mending, too. Reactors forget they need coolant, too. And that is exactly why you've been feeling so depleted lately. So stretched gossamer thin, so absolutely done in a way you can't fully communicate to the people around you, because on paper your life might even look fine. But inside, you've been running on vapor for a long, long time. Here's something else I want you to sit with. Have you noticed people getting weird around you lately? A little frostier, a little more distant. Almost like they're low-key irritated with you for reasons they themselves can't even name. Or maybe, it's the polar opposite. Maybe people are getting clingier, more intense, calling more, texting more, showing up more. Almost like they can feel you pulling away, and they're white-knuckling the rope. Both of those reactions come from the exact same place. You have been changing. Yeah, you've been leveling up. You've been doing the quiet, invisible, unglamorous work of becoming more of who you actually are. And people around you can feel that shift, even when you haven't breathed a single word about it. Some people are going to feel threatened by your evolution because your glow forces them to confront their own dimness. And that's uncomfortable for anyone who isn't ready to do their own heavy lifting. Other people are going to clutch tighter because some small part of them senses, right here, right now, that the version of you who used to give endlessly, who used to be on call 24/7, who used to let people trample every boundary you drew in pencil, that version is starting to dissolve, and they are terrified of losing their backstage pass. This is the part where I tell you something that might sting a little, but it's coming from something real, something honest. You cannot keep being everybody's source. You were never meant to be the source. You are meant to be a corridor to it. A corridor. There is a difference, and that difference is the whole game. When you let people lean on you so heavily that they stop doing their own inner work, you're not actually helping them. You're enabling them, yeah, and you are slowly gutting yourself hollow in the process. You can walk someone to the threshold. You cannot shove them across it. You can hand somebody the match. You cannot keep their fire lit forever. And the sooner you make peace with that, the sooner you stop drowning in guilt every time you choose yourself. The sooner your whole life is going to crack open in ways you literally cannot imagine from where you're standing right now. With love, yeah. I also want to talk about the loneliness in this, because nobody talks about the loneliness of being wired like this. There is a very specific breed of lonely that comes from being surrounded by people and still feeling completely invisible. You can be in a room packed with friends, family, co-workers, and still feel like nobody actually knows the real you. Because the real you got locked away a long time ago to make room for the version that's easier for everyone else to digest. You've probably had nights where you cried in your car before walking into your own house, just to keep things smooth, just to keep being the dependable one, just to keep being okay. Yeah, okay, for everyone else. And I want you to know that ends now. That chapter, the one where you compress yourself so other people can feel expanded, the one where you swallow your needs so other people don't have to sit with theirs. That chapter is closing, whether the people around you are ready for it or not. Closed. Here is something that's going to land for you. Remember earlier when I said people sense something different about you and they can't decode it? This is exactly why. You have been carrying a kind of energy that genuinely is not of this world. Not in some sci-fi tinfoil sense, but in the sense that it doesn't run on the same fuel everybody else burns through. Most people operate off fear, scarcity, survival mode on a loop. You've always operated from somewhere deeper, somewhere quieter, somewhere that feels almost primordial. Primordial. When you tap into it, that's the angelic frequency. Not wings, not halos. I'm talking about a kind of presence that injects calm straight into chaos, that radiates warmth into freezing rooms, that makes people feel like they can finally exhale when they're around you. That is an extraordinarily rare thing to carry. Most people will go their entire lives and never once encounter someone who makes them feel that way. You do it without trying. That's the whole punchline. That's why you're not a regular human. Regular humans don't make strangers well up just from feeling seen for the first time in years. Regular humans don't hear, "I don't know what it is about you," from basically every person they meet. You do, because you are not regular. You never were. Now, here's where the whole picture starts to rearrange. Because once you understand what you actually are, you can't go back to hemorrhaging your energy the way you used to. You start clocking who actually reciprocates and who just takes. You start noticing who asks how you're doing and genuinely wants the answer, who actually waits for it, versus who just uses you as a dumping ground before ghosting until the next meltdown. You start protecting your peace, not out of bitterness, but out of self-respect. Because you finally understand that your energy is sacred, and it deserves to flow toward people and things that actually nourish you back. This is not about torching every bridge. This is not about going cold or building a bunker. It's about discernment. It's about finally understanding that you get to choose where your glow goes, instead of letting it get siphoned by anyone who happens to wander close enough. And I know what some of you are thinking right now, because honestly, I can feel it through the screen. But what about the people who really need me? Here's the truth, and I say this with everything I've got. The right people in your life will not vanish when you set boundaries. The right people will actually respect you more for it. Facts. It's only the people who are benefiting from your lack of boundaries who are going to lose it when you finally install them. And that reaction, that pushback, that sudden frost or sudden clinginess you might start noticing, that's not proof you're doing something wrong. That is proof you're finally doing something right. You are watching in real time who was actually in your corner and who was just leeching off your current. I also want to name something I think you already feel, but maybe haven't said out loud yet. There has been a transformation happening in you, and it has not been comfortable. Real change never is. You don't go from giving everything away to guarding your peace overnight, and you don't do it without grief. There is a real grief in releasing relationships and patterns that used to define you, even when you know in your gut they were bleeding the life out of you. You are allowed to mourn the version of yourself who didn't know better. You are allowed to grieve connections that no longer feed the person you are becoming. That doesn't make you cold. That makes you human. Well, almost. Because somewhere in the middle of all of this shedding and all of this evolving, you've started to feel a kind of peace you didn't know existed. A stillness, like you finally let out a breath you'd been holding for years without realizing it. You are starting to come into your own fullness now. Not the fullness that comes from being everybody's everything, but the fullness that comes from finally pouring into your own vessel first. That's why some people are going to look at you and say, "You've changed." And you are going to smile and say, "Yeah, I have." Because for the first time in a very long time, you are not performing a version of yourself for anyone else's comfort. You are letting yourself dress how you want, rest when you want, say no without drafting a 3-paragraph apology for it. Walk away from conversations that drain you without guilt eating you alive afterward. And the people who cannot handle this new version of you, let them go. Let them go. Not with anger, not with revenge, just with a quiet, calm exhale. The same way you'd unclench your fist and release something that was never yours to white-knuckle in the first place. This is also what I want to talk about your purpose, because all of this, the sensitivity, the exhaustion, the years of overgiving, the slow awakening you are moving through right now, all of it has been leading somewhere. You are not here to feel everything more intensely than everyone around you for no reason. You are here to lead. Not in a loud, look at me, center stage way, but in the quiet way that real leaders actually move through the world. By example, by presence, by simply being so fully and unapologetically yourself that other people start to remember they're allowed to be, too. People are watching you, you stunning little fire starters. Even people you don't realize are watching. People who knew you years ago and lost touch are noticing your shift from across the timeline. People who barely know you are wondering what you're doing differently, what you're tapping into, because they can see something recalibrating in you that they want for themselves, but do not know how to access yet. That's not your burden to carry. Your job is just to keep walking your line, keep protecting your energy, keep choosing yourself, and let your life become the living receipt that what once felt impossible is not. I want you to think about the next few weeks like a kind of quiet unraveling. You might feel pulled toward more solitude than usual. And that's not you being antisocial. That's you finally plugging in a battery that's been flatlining for way too long. You might feel a sudden pull to get outside more, to put your bare feet on actual earth, to sit near water, to just breathe somewhere quiet without a screen glowing in your hand. Let yourself do that without guilt. You might find old connections circling back, people from your past suddenly sliding into your life out of nowhere, trying to reclaim their old spot. Now that they can feel your glow from a distance, you do not owe anyone a seat just because they used to have one. You get to decide, calmly, without theatrics, who earns a place at your table now. And here's the thing I really, truly want you to carry out of this. Being wired different was never the problem. It was never something to fix, never something to apologize for, never something to shrink so other people felt more at ease around you. The depletion you felt, the loneliness, the feeling of being too much or not enough, depending on who was doing the measuring. None of that was a sign that something was broken in you. It was a sign that you were carrying something most people simply do not carry. A rarer kind of energy, a deeper kind of presence. Something that genuinely does not belong to the noisy, frantic, survival mode frequency most of the world is tuned to. You are not a regular human, and you were never supposed to be. You are an angelic being who got dropped into an ordinary life and spent years trying to compress yourself into a standard issue container because nobody told you it was okay to take up the space you actually require. You are a very rare species, and your energy genuinely is not of this world. And the moment you stop apologizing for that and start protecting it, honoring it like the rare, irreplaceable thing it is, your whole life is going to start aligning with the truth of who you've always been. Underneath all that performing, all that overgiving, all that shrinking. So here's what I want you to do. Just sit with this for a minute after this ends. Don't rush off to the next dopamine hit. Put your hand over your chest. Take one real breath, a real one, and just let yourself feel what it's like to finally hear the truth. That you were never too much, never too strange, never too intense. You were simply early. You were simply ahead of a world that hasn't caught up to what you already know in your bones. And from here forward, you get to stop dimming yourself down for anyone's comfort. You get to let it blaze exactly as bright as it actually is. Because the people who are meant to be in your life will not be scorched by your glow. They will be grateful for it. Grateful. And the ones who can't handle the heat were never meant to stay anyway. Protect your energy, you exquisite little architects of chaos. Not because you're fragile, because what you are carrying is rare. And rare things deserve to be protected, honored.